I got asked all the time how you train for a 300-mile ultra run, and to be honest, I don't know. I used to say, keep asking round, and if you find someone that does, then please let me know. So I can't tell you how to train for a 300-mile ultra run, but I can tell you how to get through one. I mean, I wish I could say that I've been preparing for this for years, you know, that it's a lifelong dream to be able to run distances like this. But in all honesty, I got tagged in a post on social media and I thought, fuck it, let's give it a go. The night before, Joe and I met up, made a bit of a chat about my strategy, and we actually went down to the local pub and we ordered a rack of ribs, had a pint or two, just to sort of quell the nerves. Once that was done, Joe then headed off back home. He lived nearby. And then I went back to the tent and just sort of thought, right, okay, I'll just make sure I'm hydrated, take in the scenes, start getting my head into the fact that tomorrow I've got a lot of pain coming my way.
There's always a gap between the training you've done and the actual what you're expected to do on the event, and then all the training is just geared towards closing that gap a little bit. So now it's just a case of getting an early night and getting up in the morning, prepping the feet, making sure I've got the water bottles topped up, my hydration, everything sorted out. My brother is briefed and knows what's expected of him, and then get amongst it really.
You've got to prepare your mind for that. When I've boxed in the past and I've played rugby league in the past, you know you're putting your body on the line. And although nobody was going to be hitting me, 300 miles is going to take its toll.
Secret weapon.
When I stood on the start line, I just feel a little bit conscious. I was definitely bigger than the rest of the competitors. They look what I call like proper runners, and I look like a workman's got in the wrong queue. But I was confident. I was confident in my own beliefs, my own strategy. It's a bit of a cliche, but you know, I really was thinking about the finish line, not a finish time. Whatever happens now happened. The training is done. I can't dwell on the past and I can't think about the future. I've just got to deal with the present. So supporting me throughout the whole event was my brother, Joe.
There was never any real choice. As soon as I found out Craig was doing it, I was doing it as well. I must admit that when he first said I'm running 300 miles, I did think, well, how the jumping hell am I going to do that?
He supported me on a few races. I don't think he enjoys it. I don't think he likes the idea of his little brother being in pain and struggling. He definitely cannot get his head around the fact that I pay money to do it and see it as a bit of fun. But to be honest, I can't really believe I do that either. But he's always there. He's super reliable. You know, he hasn't got a great deal of knowledge about running, hydration, nutrition, all that kind of stuff, but he is there. He's super reliable, super dependent, and if he says I'm going to be there for the day, he's there for the whole day. And in events like this, I just needed somebody that I can rely on.
When I first heard about 300 miles, I was thinking, well, he did 60 miles, he's done 100 miles, and those times were horrific, and it looked painful. So my first thought was, I really don't want to do this. I don't want to watch him hurting himself. The next thought was, if it's round a lake, chances are it's going to be better conditions, better terrain, easier to run round. And if it's just kind of doing laps, it might be easy to do. Man, was I wrong. In the first hour, it was obvious that it wasn't going to be as easy as I thought to run.
I don't think I thought about the distance much at first. It's far greater than I had ever run before. The most I'd ever run was 104 miles.
All I was trying to do was get a feel for what Craig needed. I was worried about that I wasn't getting enough water into him. And I was worried that I wasn't getting enough food into him. It was going to collapse somewhere because he hadn't had enough salts or something like that. Yeah? What do you want?
Could do some savoury.
Do the noodles?
Yeah, if you do them noodles, and then perhaps.
I think the brutal aspect came from the idea that it would be, boring at times. So it would be just over a mile laps around the park until you've done 300 miles. Seeing the same things, going over the same ground, seeing the same people for such a long time. And in some way, I thought this kind of suits me. When I was in the Marines, I'd run around the flight deck of aircraft carriers. I think a lot of the race boiled down to kind of my own beliefs. And I believed through experience that I could look after myself. I could turn myself around enough to get through this if I was smart. That's a very, very powerful thing. Quite often I've talked to other people that were doing the race. They'd be like, right, let's see how far we get. And just that choice of words suggests that they're not really preparing for the whole distance. Whereas I knew every step had to be done, every metre, every mile had to be done. And that's what I was preparing for. I had no idea how I was going to do it. But I always say you don't necessarily need to know the how. You just need to do it. And then as each problem occurs, just be able to tackle the problem and just keep moving, because at some point you're going to run out of miles and you're going to get to the finish line. After about 30 miles, I was really starting to feel the effects of the heat. It wasn't too hot a day, it was like mid 20 degrees Celsius, but it was definitely having an effect. I was trying to keep up the pace and I was moving quite well, but my heart rate was going through the roof, and I've had issues with my heart rate in the past. I did an ultra race in Kenya called the Rangers Ultra, and I got quite sick because of dehydration and overexertion, and I had to be helicoptered out. It was a tough time because I was really sick. I felt horrible, and what happened, because of the effects of the body, I never really recovered. I didn't really recover, and I tried going again the next day, and I was still, it just took a long time to recover from it. And I thought, if I let my heart rate, if I get myself into that state again, I'm definitely not going to complete this. So it became a bit of a game of cat and mouse. I would watch my heart rate. As soon as it started to get to 140, 145, I would then walk. I'd walk long enough for it to drop down to about 120. As soon as it hit 120, then I'd start running again, and I just kept on doing that. And I did it for hours and hours and hours. And I just thought, if I can limp through this hottest part of the day, when the sun goes down and we get to the night time, if I can get control of my heart rate, I stand a chance. So it became this constant effort to keep the water going in, keep on top of the electrolytes. Again, I wasn't that worried about food and energy, but You know, I was blessed in that every time I got to a bench, you know, my brother had put a water bottle on there, and, you know, one with electrolytes, one with plain water, and I could choose that and I could sip that right up until I got to the point where the tent was, and then, you know, I could ditch the water bottle and carry on going. And I did that. The other thing I did as well, when no one was about, I would lift my top off, you know, just to get some extra air circulating around my body to try and cool me down. And, you know, I knew the heat was having an effect. So my overall strategy, I watched a few videos on YouTube, as you do, and there seemed to be a couple of different ways of tackling big mileage like this. One way was like, you have rest points, rest stops, you know, you get in, you have a decent bit of rest, and, you know, you kind of get through it like that. I didn't like the idea of that, because when I've done multi-day stuff in the past, there's been days when I've just not been able to sleep. There've been rest periods where no matter what I do, I couldn't rest, or I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink. And I just thought, maybe there's a different way. And then the other way is that you just keep moving and then stop as and when you need to. And I thought, you know, this seems to make a bit more sense to me. So I'll just run until the point where I need a little bit of a nap, and then perhaps just have 20 minutes, get up and go again. And this constant tortoise and the hare type strategy it just spoke to me a lot more than the actual big chunks of rest. And I just thought, if I can just keep going like I have in the past, and if I can just keep myself moving, you know, looking after blisters and changing kit and all this kind of stuff, then maybe that's the way that I would get through. Eventually I got control of my heart rate. It was night time and I thought, right, I can go for it now. And, you know, I picked up the pace and cracked on.
Just have a mouthful of coke.
The night time stage.
So the minute I'm just fighting every minute just to get my heart rate down. It's just really high. Every time it gets up to like 140, 145, I just slow it down a little bit to walk, just to allow the heart rate to come down. Once it gets to about 120, I go again. So the minute I'm in a race for, you know, to get the first 100 done. And I think once I get the first 100 done, I'll be sort of, I don't know where I'll be mentally, but I just think, you know, I've got a good chunk done, and then seems funny, but there's only 200 miles to go after that. So yeah, if I can just get a grip of this heart rate, perhaps I'll put myself into a good stead.
The first night I had just a couple of hours sleep. I got to early hours in the morning and my vision just started to get a little bit weird, like the kind of lights were closing in on me. Only when I stopped, like the lights were closing in on my vision, and it was weird. I thought perhaps it's dehydration or something like that. And as the event went on, I knew there were times when I was quite well hydrated and I kept on top of food and electrolytes, but I was still getting this vision thing, and I put it down to sleep deprivation. So I just started to feel like this at one point on the first night. I just thought, right, I'm gonna have a couple of hours sleep and then get up and get going again. And this is a little bit of my strategy. You know, when most people was going to bed and they were getting a good night's sleep to rest and everything, I thought, right, okay, I have minimum rest, let's go again, you know. And I wanted to have a good chunk of miles under my belt by the time morning came. First day went by pretty uneventful, really. You know, the usual stuff, your feet getting sore and, you know, dealing with the usual things. But I remember getting to mile 95 after 24 hours and thinking, with 2 hours sleep, that's not bad pay. So my wife was going for a knee replacement operation on the day that I was scheduled to finish, and I wouldn't be there to take her to hospital. When I did that first 100 miles in quite a decent time, I thought, you know, maybe there's a chance that I'll be there. And that's what I started to focus on. I just thought about, you know, getting through in a quicker time than I thought originally. And maybe I can be there just to, you know, to get her to the hospital and to drop her off before she has her surgery. I did a lot of work on my beliefs. I did a lot of visualization, thinking about the times when it's going to get tough, getting to the finish line, staying calm on the start line, thinking about dealing with the weather, with blisters, with kit problems, with food, with hydration, electrolytes, all those things that stop people from ultimately getting to the finish line. Even the night before, I spent time just playing it out in my head, working on what I call if-then statements. So if this happens, then I'm going to do this. And create little mental maps in my brain that when things started to go wrong, I already had a bit of a strategy on how to deal with it. Half of the track was this loose, hard, sharp stone gravel, and the other half was like baked earth. Pretty much the same as running on concrete. That combination of the hot earth and the gravel just absolutely battered people's feet. I mean, everybody was struggling with bruised feet and blisters, and I was no exception. Like I said, I've struggled with foot-related problems all my life, really. So, I wasn't going to escape it in this race. After about 120 miles, my feet were quite severely swollen, where the side of the trainers was compressing the feet. I was really struggling with the pain of it, really. I was kept having to stop, get my socks off, try and get a bit of ice on there, try and cool them down, because they just felt like they were red and sore all the time, and they were definitely affecting the way that I was moving and the amount of time that I could keep moving for without having to stop and elevate them and just try and bring the swelling and the pain down a little bit. I did try a couple of painkillers, some stronger stuff than I would normally take. I just felt I needed something else. They did fuck all for the pain, but I ran around giggling for, for a couple of laps. I remember at night time, I was thinking, it's pretty dark and pretty eerie, pretty scary, kind of running around this park on your own. Just your world just becomes this blob of light from your head torch. I remember I was in that much pain, and eventually I was like praying that a serial killer would come out of the dark and bludgeon me to death.
First time I thought he was struggling was when I saw him take his shoes off for the first time, and I realised that it was a bit like a duck. Up above, he was smiling and everything was fine, and down below it wasn't right. And when I saw his feet, how gingerly he took his trainers off and things like that, and that's when I realised that he was going to struggle, and that's what he was going to struggle with.
The only things that I really, really struggled with, and that I didn't believe in, was my footwear. I've always suffered with blisters. I've heard so many people say to me, if you get blisters, it's just bad admin. But I'd challenge anyone to spend as much time as I do looking after my feet, taping them, putting cream on them, just trying to prevent blisters and taking care of blisters afterwards. And I still get blisters. I get some horrific blisters. And I'm just susceptible to blisters. The shape of my feet, the shape of the footwear, it just doesn't match. I spent loads of money, loads of time, loads of effort trying to find trainers that would fit my feet, and I just couldn't find any that I thought would do the job. Eventually I set on some Hokas, which for a long time I've avoided Hokas. A good friend of mine did the MDS in Hokas not long after they first launched, and they completely fell to bits, and they just almost crippled him during the race. So I've always sort of stayed away. I tried some Hokas on, seemed to be quite comfortable and cushioned enough, and I thought maybe these are the ones. Now I did take a couple of extra pair of trainers because I really didn't know how the Hokas were going to perform. I knew at some point I would need to change footwear and mix things up a little bit as my feet swelled and I developed foot problems. I took some ultra lone peaks with me because they had a big wide toe box, and I just thought, if my feet are that swollen, then I can definitely get my feet inside these trainers. And I kind of soldiered on for about another 30 miles with my feet in this state. That was the time when I thought, if I've got to do this for another 150 miles, I don't know how I'm going to do that. With the feet swelling and what have you, I put on the ultras and I thought, okay, these definitely feel better. I definitely got more room around the toes. The only downside was that I could now feel every little pebble, just very little cushioning. And it become like, which one's worse? Is it the pressure from the trainers or feeling every little stone and pebble. And I kind of just swapped from one to the other, one to the other, one to the other, and never really got a handle of what was going on. And I was just in so much pain.
Right. The bit that was swelling up before,
Yeah.
it's hurting already.
And it was made worse at night because, you know, at night time, there's not a lot to look at. There's not a lot to take your mind off stuff. And, you know, so that you can, it almost emphasizes the pain and makes it worse. Joe come up with this idea of cutting the front off the trainers to alleviate the pressure. I didn't want to do it to the Hawkers because they were like my main trainer. I thought, you know, if I don't want to ruin that, and I've got 150 miles to go with no trainers. So I had some spare trainers that I thought, right, let's try it with those. I was dubious at first because, you know, I felt that there was like bits of plastic sticking out, which obviously like protect your feet from kicking stones and roots and stuff. And I just thought, I don't know if this is going to work. But I tried them on, and straight away I was like, we've definitely got the space that my feet need. And the air, you know, getting air to them was definitely a benefit as well. Now it boiled down to like the cushioning from the gravel and, you know, from the stones. When I got running, it just worked really, really well. I was suddenly really positive because we'd alleviated the pressure on the feet, but also got the cushioning from the stones, and it's the best of both worlds. And now I could start moving again. And I wasn't moving particularly fast, but I was consistently moving forward. And that, on a distance like this, is really important.
Any good?
It's a phrase that gets used a lot nowadays, maybe a little bit too much, and that is game changer. These are a game changer. However, I did spike my foot with my walking foot. No, but seriously, this is
you can.
it's made a big difference. So.
The middle 100 miles was strange. When I first got started, I felt like there was a race to the 100-mile mark. But after that, it just, the miles, the distance never seemed to change. Like mile 110 felt the same as mile 130. We just didn't feel like I was making any progress. It was just, any progress that I was making was just slow because it was just laps. Like it's not like you could see yourself making progress along a map to a new destination, you know, a different point. It was just constant forward and forward, and it affected a lot of people. That middle 100 was horrible. It was like being in limbo. Never really feel like you're making any progress. And I think it would have been very easy to just go, you know what, what's the freaking point? But, you know, I just had to focus on the fact that if I just keep moving forward, every mile is a mile less that I've got to do. And if I keep just chipping away their miles, at some point I'm going to reach 300. Just keep going. You know, even each step is just another bit of distance off the total that I needed to do. I was really fortunate that I had some great visitors. I had my family and some friends come along, and some of them would run with me. Some of them would walk with me. You know, I'd be able to sit and have a chat with them, and it definitely broke it up. But all the time in my mind, I was thinking, I've just got to keep moving, you know, minimize the rest and keep going, because I didn't know what was around the corner. It's weird for people coming to see you on a race like that because they don't see you for very often. They perhaps travel quite a way to come and see you, and then when they do see you, you're in pain, and it's never for very long because you've got to get moving again. And then when my family turned up and I got there and I was like, hey, how are you doing? You know, it's good to see you and all that kind of stuff. And then I just laid on the floor and iced my feet and had a nap, you know, because I just needed to sleep. But once I got up, I then did a few laps with friends and family. That helped break it up. It would have been a tough gig without those people kind of running along and running with you. There's a lot of cons for the Brutal 300. You know, there's a lot that makes it tough and challenging, but I think there's a lot that also makes it a great race. You know, there's a lot of pros. For example, you know, because you're doing laps, family and friends can come along and support you and join in with for a little bit. You know, you do get used to seeing people as you're running around. You don't have to carry anything. Administrating yourself is much easier because you've got a fixed place that you know you're going to pass every mile. One of the downsides of that though is that if you stop for 1 minute on every lap, you've lost 300 minutes, which is quite a considerable amount. Before the race, I'd stumbled across a study that was done with rats. One could control when he ran and what he did and all that kind of stuff. And the other one was at the mercy of the other rat. When the first rat run, he had to run and all this. And one rat flourished, become very healthy, and that was the one that was in control of stuff. And the one that had no control became stressed, developed tumours, and then eventually would die. And, I think it's a lot of the same in life. We become the more stressed when we don't feel like we're in control of what's going on. So I was very, very quick to remind myself that I chose to do this race. All the things the sore feet, the tiredness, needing to sleep, the discomfort, all these things, I chose it. It was my choice, and therefore, what do you expect? So by freeing myself of the stress of thinking, I've got no choice, I've now got every choice, and therefore, I think it was easier just to keep going because ultimately I was the master of my own destiny.
Oh, look at this. What's he got?
At this point, I've got to give credit to Joe. He really did keep me going. There were times when I wasn't thinking straight. There were times when I was perhaps a bit snappy, and he just was calm, funny, encouraging all the time. And I've got to say that we used to go back home at night time to get some sleep after looking after me all day long, every 10, 20 minutes getting up to sort me out and give me something. He'd go home and get some sleep, and then I'd, keep moving throughout the night. And the one thing I'd focus on, every time I'd come round the middle lap as it was starting to get light, I was thinking, right, is Joe back yet? Is Joe back yet? Is Joe back yet? And when he was back, I was like, yeah, brilliant, right, okay, this is the start of another day, and let's keep going. And he was absolutely pivotal in the whole event.
As a family member, watching your loved one go through that, it's hard. It's harder than people think. You're not just kind of along for the ride and kind of watching your brother hurt themselves, essentially. Periodically, like seeing them throughout the race, and each time you see them, the worse, they're hurting more and more and more and more. It's hard, and to be honest, a couple of times I've thought, I don't really want to see it. I don't really want to watch that. I don't enjoy it. And I was feeling proud, and I remember standing there seeing all these runners, thinking these boys are at the top of their game, and Craig's here. So I was immensely proud.
Chatting to a woman today, and she said, going doing all these laps, making me lose my mind. It just made me think, well, what's your fault for bringing it? What I mean is, I don't want to lose my wedding ring, so when I'm out running, I don't bring it. And there's certain points in the race where you just don't need your mind. Take this for example. I'm not running right now. This is toad watch. I'm on toad patrol here. Like, I've seen loads of little toads and frogs, so I'm just looking for loads more. And what that does, I mean, you might not care about amphibians and animals and stuff like that, but ultra-runner diarrhea. And my point is, it's up to you what you look for, and up to you what you concentrate on. You either concentrate on the pain in your feet, the ache in your legs, whatever. Or you can look round and take it all in, So, by the way, I did start off with owl watch up in the trees. I didn't find any owls, but I found pretty much every freaking tree root in the place. So I had to change owl watch to toad watch. Not seen any for a while. But anyway, we'll keep going.
I'd done a bit of research on like leg strength and that kind of stuff prior to the race, and I learnt a stat that no matter how far you do, you only ever truly lose 20 to 40% of your leg strength throughout ultras. because of that, I just thought, right, well, my legs are going to be okay then. Even if they're tired, I've still got the strength. Therefore, you know, I need to rely on my legs and turn my brain off. And I quickly made this promise to myself that every time I got to the little rise, I would run up it just to get it over and done with. And it was little things like that I would, like little check-off points, little thresholds around the route where I go, okay, get to that point. Right, here we go again. Up the hill, down the hill, around the lake, past the tent, back to the start, turn around, you know, and little things in my mind that I constantly kept playing in order to get me through the event. One of the things was the start, you know, there was a big marquee there, loads of food, hot drinks, and it was really easy just to go, you know what, I'll just call in and have a couple of minutes in the marquee, and then of course 2 minutes become 4 minutes, become 6 minutes, and before you know, you've lost a lot of time in the marquee. And I said to Joe, you know, if you're ever up on the start line, just tell me, you know, get in and get out, because once you're out and you're on the course, you're committed to that lap. It's only another mile, so chances are you're going to do it. But the hard thing is getting out at the checkpoint. So I made a real effort just to kind of avoid that as much as I could. I'd get across the timing sensor and then I'd be like, okay, out, come on, let's go, out. And I'd be saying to myself, get out. I knew once I'd committed to another lap, then I was committed to another mile and I'd be okay. One time I did go into the marquee, I went to see the medic to get a couple of blisters addressed. I've always sort of done them myself, but I just felt I needed someone else to kind of have a look at them and just, you know, see where we go from there. I had blisters on blisters. I popped one blister, but there was still another blister deeper. I just need someone else to dress it. But I remember after getting my blisters checked, the vision thing started again, where the light started coming in. I just thought, I've got to have some rest. I just thought, right, I'll make my way around to the tent and just get some sleep.
It's Craig. Hello.
How are you doing?
Well, I'm a bit nervous because I'm about to have my knee cut out, but what about you? Are you going to make it? Are you?
No, I don't think so. I'm in a lot of pain. I'm doing all right, but I just don't think I'm going to get back in time.
Okay. Oh, I'm a little bit disappointed for me, but I I'm so proud of you, and I just want you to just smash it. So promise me you'll be there when I'm finished and I'm out.
Yeah, I'll make sure I'm there then. All right, I love you loads.
Love you. Bye. He's not going to make it.
Somehow I got to mile 200.
200?
I really don't ever remember the miles chipping down. It just, suddenly I was here at mile 200 with 100 miles to go. And it sounds unbelievable, like it's hard to compute. You know, I was thinking, like, I've got another 100, but it's the most I've ever run. I've done twice that. I've got the same to go again. It's hard to compute that. All I did was said, look, you know, it doesn't have to be fast. It doesn't have to be pretty. It's just got to be done. And this is a mantra that I first adopted when I was doing the MDS in 2016, you know, where I knew I was undertrained and overweight, and every step's just got to be done. You know, there are no shortcuts. You've just got to get on and get it done.
But you can afford to sleep, you know. You really can.
I remember at night time, you know, I did so much to try and take my mind off what I was doing. You know, there was loads of little frogs and toads, and I was hunting for frogs and toads rather than thinking about the running.
Yeah, look at this, I've caught an absolute belter. I've got to make sure now he goes back somewhere safe where he's not going to get stood on. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! You
know, just a ton of different stuff to take my mind off what was happening.
Guys, have you seen any toads? Guys, have you seen any toads? Any toads, fellas? Alright, mate. No need to get down on yourself. you get it? Down.
I remember running around the track, and one of the other runners was sat, and his support team had brought him a full Sunday lunch with Yorkshire puddings and everything. I was like, my God, that looks incredible, you know, and he was just tucking into this Sunday lunch while sat on the side of the track. And anyway, my tent with Joe was another couple of hundred metres further on. So I ran down. As I approached, I was like, you'll never believe what I've just seen. There's some guy up there who's got a full Sunday lunch. And Joe had turned up with not only a big pizza, but also a kebab. And I was like, my God, it's incredible. You know, and it was brilliant. Just sort of there and then, in so much pain, so tired. Just to have the pizza and kebab was just incredible. And I was just snaffling that, and it really picked me up before I cracked on.
The thing about a race is that it's competitive. You versus other people, but it didn't feel like that. We just ended up having such a great little group. Other competitors of note, Reggie, who I've worked with for years and done other events with. Max, who I called Max Speed. He was just so quick, quite often just singing to himself, and just the wildest mix of tunes, from Spice Girls 1 minute to bloody Nat King Cole the next, and everything in between. And then Tom, who was really strong and who I spent a lot of time running with. It was a great group. Nothing forges friendships like adversity, and we all went through that. There was times when we were all desperately in pain, but just kept on going, and every time you saw each other, it just give each other a lift, you know, and help each other out. Here's a bit of food, here's a bit of water, walk with me for a bit, you know, jog with me for a bit, or whatever. And I feel like we just worked really hard to get through.
Tom would eventually go on and win the race. Real strong competitor, in big races, and a real interesting backstory as well. It's weird because events like this just have this ability to reduce you to like childish humour, you know. And we'd run past this. There was a dog outside one of the caravans called Barney, and he just looked like some old retired major from the army. We'd laugh and joke, and you know, little things like that just kept you going. You know, we had some deep conversations about some really personal stuff. Tom seemed to be moving relatively well, but you know, listening to, you could tell that he was also hurting and tired and hungry, but he wasn't letting up. You know, he was moving really well. As dawn broke, I had about 50 miles to go. Joe hadn't come back from the night before yet. I was sort of thinking to myself, oh, it's only 50 miles. And then when you start to analyse it, you think, well, that's 2 marathons. And if 2 marathons, say you do a 6-hour marathon, which is, you know, in any given day would be a relatively slow marathon for me, that's still 12 hours of running.
I'm moving. Not moving very fast, but I am moving. It's coming up to 50 miles to go. Got plenty of time, in theory, as long as I can kind of keep it together and I don't spend too much time having to sort myself out, patching myself up and keep myself in the game. So it's a real long agonising day. This is the culprit of this gravel here. But I also don't feel like I've been out very long.
It really kind of messed with my head, and I had to really get a grip of myself and think, nothing changes. Just keep moving forward, just keep going. It will pass. You know, you will get through this. You just got to keep chipping away. I wish I could say that at that point I just started to sprint and started running faster because I knew it was close to home. If anything, I slowed down. I was at the point where I was, my routine was I would run 3 laps, have a little break, ice my feet, run 3 laps, ice my feet, run a third set of 3, and then I would have a 10-minute break, elevate my feet, try and get the swelling down, a little bit of something to eat, plenty of hydration, and then go again. And I literally just limped myself through those 10-mile blocks like that as I was chipping away at the mile. The last 10 miles, I just remember it being the most painful of the lot. People were saying to me, you know, when you get to the last 10 miles, they just fly by. And to some extent they did, but also they didn't. You know, they were definitely more painful. I was getting to the point where I was like, I'm gonna go now. I don't have to survive anymore. I don't have to I don't have to look after myself and protect myself anymore. I can literally just throw everything into this and just get this done now. Before, when you've got 100 miles to go, you've got to look after yourself. It's about self-preservation, but now I could throw all that out of the window and just go for it. But I couldn't go much faster because of the pain in my feet. I just kept on going and going and going, and it was getting later and later in the day, and I kept looking at the cut-off 110 hours, which at the start of the race I just thought, that is so much time. I can do this easily in that amount of time, but the time just got eaten up by cutting down trainers and having to walk and icing my feet and sleeping and all this kind of stuff. And suddenly it's just not a lot of time, for an event like this, for a runner of my ability. With 7 laps to go, my vision was worse than ever. I was stumbling all over the place. I was hallucinating like swarms of bees and flies. And, I just thought, I just got to sleep. So with 7 laps to go, I got back to my tent and I said to Joe, look, I need my jacket, I need a pillow, and I need some Pro Plus. He gave me my jacket, I put it on. He gave me the pillow. He turned around to get some caffeine tablets out of the truck. By the time he turned around, I was on the floor and I was sleeping, and he was more or less stuffing these caffeine tablets into my mouth.
Of course, I thought, what the hell? He's passed out, but as I looked, I realised he'd gone to sleep.
My thinking was, if I can just have a 20-minute nap and get up and then go again and finish this off, then I'll be okay. But in my current state, I'm not going to finish this with the amount of sleep deprivation and pain that I'm in. And I've had some weird dreams during the event. I wish I could say that I had really profound dreams of running in amazing places around the world, but I didn't. I dream of some of the tough times in my life, and times when I was so desperately low, and times when things were really hard, no money, homeless, no job, no idea what I was going to do. And you'd think like you'd get sad about times like that and moments like that. But I soon realised that my ability to get through an event like this is not because of my ability to run. I'm an average runner at best. What got me through this race was my ability to get through shit, my ability to turn myself around and keep moving forward, my ability to, when everything and everybody is telling you to stop, is to just keep going. These were the fundamental reasons why I completed this event. Things that, perhaps I'm ashamed of from my past and that, I don't like to think about. I realized in that moment that these are all the tools that I'd been lining up to get me through something like this. One more thing that such a powerful force is pride. I couldn't even imagine not completing these 7 miles. Getting through these 7 miles with feet just red raw, toenails hanging out, and bleeding, and legs aching, and eyes just so sore, headache, all these things that I was experiencing. It's so much easier to go through that, through the next 7 miles, than it was to live a lifetime of feeling like a failure. When I woke up, I didn't really feel refreshed. I felt better, and that was enough.
Can you tell me what time the park run starts?
I wanted the last lap to be something different. I wanted it to really stand out to people. And so because of that, I thought, right, I want to go absolutely everything. I want my last lap to be my fastest lap. And I threw all caution to the wind.
Go on, lad. Wrong way around, don't get lost.
It was pitch black, and you do the last lap in the opposite direction, which is amazing because everybody then knows that you're on your last lap. But also I was moving that quick that people they just had this head touch sprinting towards them and had no idea what was going on. And I remember running past this Scottish guy that I'd chatted to a few times on the race. And he was like, "Who the fuck's that?" And I just shouted back, "Who the fuck's that?" And just ran past him, you know, because I was so desperate to get to the finish line and really wanted to lay down a statement for this last lap. I really do think it would have been my fastest lap, but my head torch fell off and I had to go back and get it and sort myself out. And everybody I passed just gave me more and more energy and pride, and you know, it just really drove me on all the way to the finish line. And when I crossed the finish line and Joe was there, my mate Andy was there, Tom was there, it was just an incredible feeling to have covered such a distance. The organisers came across and told me and gave me a plaque, the second male, and finishing second it's just unbelievable for some, you know, and it just goes to show that if you're thinking of doing races like this, you might think, oh, I could never do anything like that. But you know, I'm not a runner. I'm not a consistent runner. All right, I've done some big races in the past, but I've always been undertrained and overweight, and I've just managed to get through it. And this is no different. I suppose what I want to do is encourage you just to truly commit to it. Think beyond the running aspect and work on your mind and your beliefs and your strategy, because when your legs give up, your head can take over, and when your head gives up, well, then that's when your heart needs to take over. And I truly believe that having run 300 miles, anybody could do it with a moderate amount of training and enough commitment and determination. You could do it, and it's in there. It really is in there.
So what do you think then?
I think I can go further.